Okay, here we go with what should be a fairly simple lecture. But before I get into it, I need to comment on the previous lecture. I feel the need. I started recording the lecture and got very talky, and it came out to being a 27-minute lecture. Udemy only supports 20-minute lectures, so I ended up cutting it in half. As a result, the lecture is a little choppy. The other thing that it is it's very quick. You shoot around the screen fairly quickly. If you didn't follow everything, don't worry. The rest of the course, we're going to go through every one of those features that you saw at a much slower pace. I just wanted you to see them all so that the screen wasn't intimidating to you, the Create Studio screens, when you see them. So with that said, I'm ready for the next lecture, which is inserting and manipulating characters. How to set up characters for an animation scene. So to begin this, let's jump over to Create Studio. So here we are in Create Studio. I know we already created a new project, but we kind of messed it up. So let's start a brand new clean project. I'm going to bring this up to 1080p, and I'm going to call it Character Project. Okay, we may work on this for a bit. And the background, let's try going for white for a change. So I click the white, and then I click outside that little selector. Just click anywhere outside and it goes away. And this is a fine resolution. It's top resolution. Good name. We're ready to create the project. And here we are. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put a character onto the screen. So we already know that over here in media, this is all the media that comes from outside Create Studio, right? The speech to text, the media library, which is Pixels and Pixabay, creating a new folder and importing stuff from our hard drive. We want characters that are inside Create Studio. Now, I suppose you could consider any of these things to be characters. Not really. I guess transitions and scenes aren't. But we're going to go after characters. Note also, as you click on these things, you go into a hierarchy. So this is like a directory hierarchy, and it leaves breadcrumbs. So I can see that I'm at home characters right now. And if I go into Supreme, which are nice characters, but they're kind of flat, two-dimensional, I'm in home characters Supreme, and I can back up to characters. Now I'm going to go after the 3D characters. The other thing that I want to point out to you is that if you're running the standard Create Studio distribution, you're only going to have about 8 3D characters. Now these characters aren't really 3D, they're still 2D flat characters. You can't spin them around 360 degrees, but they've got a 3D look to them, which I think looks really good, and I prefer to use these. The other thing is that if you get the extended subscription, look at this. These are all the 3D characters that you get. I don't know how many there are, about 100 or 50. And you get to use all of these characters. Now, if you get the standard edition, I think, as I said, you're going to have about 8. And I think you have, if we go back to characters, the flatter characters, like the Supremes, you're going to have maybe 20 of these. It's still a pretty good handful, and you can learn Create Studio, but believe me, you're going to eventually want to upgrade to the advanced subscription and get all of the characters, all the templates. You're going to get everything, all the music, all the features that are in Create Studio. So let's go back to characters, and I'm going to go to 3D. Okay, so here's what we do to work with a character. You notice this little icon here? That's the download. In fact, it tells you it's download icon. And you have to download the character from the Create Studio Cloud to your personal computer before you can use it. And this can sometimes take a while. This one doesn't have that because I've already downloaded it. And if you scroll over it, you're going to see up here a little thing of some of the animations that are available for that character, and you'll see the character. Oh, here's the Grinch. That's neat. So let's say we want to use the penguin. Step 1, download it to your personal computer. Now, I may be using a character that isn't available in the default. I wonder, I don't know what the default or the standard characters are, so I'd have a hard time finding one. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do the penguin. You may not have it available. Do whatever character you have that's available. If it's not available, you're going to go down and you're going to see the first 8 characters, and then you're going to start seeing something, a label like Pro. Then if you click on that, it's going to ask you to get an extended subscription and get access to everything. So let's click the download, and it takes a long time to download. Notice the progress bar here. You can just barely see it, and it's creeping along. This is something that I hope Vidello fixes, is somewhat faster downloads for the characters. So downloading the character is one of those click the download button and then go have a cup of coffee kind of things. Now, let's assume that we've downloaded this character. So it's downloaded. Now we can delete it from our hard drive, in which case we'd have to download it again if we wanted to use it. So if you want to use it, just grab it and drag it onto the display area. And here's our character. Now remember, although they call these characters 3D, you can't rotate them around. They're flat characters. They're 2D characters. They've been given a 3D effect, but they're not true 3D characters. So here we've got this caribou, and we can do things to it. So notice the controls at the edge. Here we can make the caribou very narrow. Okay, and remember the undo key. That's our friend. So as we mess around, keep clicking undo. And then I can click on it again, and if I want to maintain the aspect ratio, I grab the corner and I can size him. Now, once again, I can make him flat by picking that. I don't know why you would want to do that. And let's undo that. So that's the way to manipulate a character after you've brought him in. Now, I also want you to notice this, that with bringing in a character and selecting him, first I get all of the options for configuring the character over here on the right. So X rotation, let's see, that's at 0. I can rotate him in the X dimension, or I can go double click on this and type 0 to undo that. Or I can flip him like, oh, that's right, I'm moving him in the X direction. I can move him across the screen that way. The easy way to move him is just grab him and move him around. And remember, you got to have the arrow clicked up here, not the hand. The hand moves the whole thing, and we can fit to screen to get back to center. So make sure your arrow is selected, and you can select the character. You can move him around, you can resize him, you can flip him if you wanted him at a slight angle. And there's other things that you could do. Down here, just below, you can see that we've got center character. Okay, this centers whatever object you have selected on the screen. We can expand it to fit the canvas. So here you see it took the edges out to the very top and bottom. And I can even expand it beyond. I think I could get gigantic. What did that do? That took the outer edges to the outside of the canvas. That's interesting. I didn't know that. I always wondered what that did. I never used that button, but that's what it does. I can also flip him horizontally and up and down. So that's the bringing in of a character. How are we doing on the download over here? You see, we're only about 1/3 of the way through downloading. It takes a while to do that. Now, the option, let's go back down to the timeline. The timeline is the thing that we're going to talk about next. Maybe I shouldn't talk about it yet, but you can see that we get a bar on the timeline. And here I've got for the caribou. And as I slide the playhead along, I can see him move. Now let's zoom in. Now notice he moves just a little bit. That's because we already have an animation on him. You can't have a character without an animation. Notice this. If I try to make this longer, I can't, because think about it. What would you do if you had a character but you didn't have any action for him? He wasn't idle, he wasn't anything. So the actions or these effects are fixed length. So I have one idle that's this long. I can't change the width of that. And as a result, I can't change the width of the character. If I want to do that, I have to add an action of another idle. And see, I get it here. Now, I can take the character and make it shorter. And what that does is it crops off the end of the idle. And I think I'm getting too far right now because we're getting into the timeline and animation, what we're going to cover next. Now, one last thing. If I select this guy and I want to get rid of him, I actually have to come down to the bar and right click, and I get duplicate or delete. And I can delete him and he's gone. So that's how to bring a character in for animation. I'm a little over halfway through downloading the Penguin. In the next lecture, we're going to look at working with the timeline. We're going to head back to that timeline. I'm sure I went through it too quickly in the first lecture in this section. Well, we're going to go through a little bit slower and a little bit more detail in preparation for animating the character that we brought onto the screen. I'll see you in that lecture.